You're listening to DraftKings Network.
You know, Stugotz, that I am fascinated by the industry. I am fascinated by what it is that happens at ESPN as the industry's sports leader and what happens throughout our literal business, Stugotz, because jobs in this field are shrinking. As sports explodes, content explodes, the entities that employ people, Barstool, cutting costs, ESPN doing it differently than it's ever done it before, giving a lot of money to a few people and making them stars.
Right.
Undisputed trying to keep up. Skip Bayless, when those shows debuted at the start of football, Skip Bayless took 2 months off. His show popped on the internet with millions of viewers, but nobody was watching that on television. Richard Sherman, the debut of that show debuted at 120,000 people. That's like 3 or 4 times smaller than Highly Questionable was. And then shrunk to 70,000 people on the third day, which is less than what we were getting on ESPN News for our show.
But the digital numbers were blowing up, right?
Well, not digital numbers, just internet talk that wasn't people going to their televisions the way they did for Shannon Sharpe on First Take, where it got 10 times the number that what Skip Bayless was doing. But in the middle of this, something that I noticed that happened, because we've talked before about what ESPN chose, which is they have customers, and it's their right as a business and their customers' right as a business, post George Floyd, to not want a lot of race talk or politics talk around sports. They made a choice. And in the middle of that, Mina Kimes, and this made me so happy for her, as a former business reporter who had to prove herself to a whole bunch of people who say, you never played. What the hell do you know about football? Well, she showed them. She shows them all the time, and she got paid an enormous amount of money for the time when jobs are shrinking because she's that good at being informed and that good at giving the information to people and getting along with colleagues, navigating a very difficult path of cavemen who don't really want to hear from her in this America tell them about hand-in-the-dirt football. Like, what she has to overcome is so much more than any man in this field, and she's overcome it. However, because of the politics of the day, Stugotz, she gets weaponized. People don't want to hear from her. Outkick, God almighty, shit stain. You have birthed an army of shit stains, man. When you go after that woman, not having any earthly idea how hard it is to overcome all the bullshit in this industry by knuckle draggers in the executive level and on social media. You have no earthly idea how hard it was for her to prove to everybody she knows football like everybody. Everybody up there, nobody's better at knowing football than Mina Kimes, and it's because...
Not like everybody, better than everybody.
No, but what I'm saying is that she has to be better than everybody to get to that spot. But what I'm saying is the people who played, who she would say, well, clearly they know more than I do about things. They played. They have the experience. But in her work ethic and the things that she does, you see no absence of knowledge anywhere. And she can make fewer mistakes than anybody else. I told you this, Stugotz. I learned this on Highly Questionable. I learned this watching Katie and Sarah and Mina and Elle not be able to make a mistake because of what it would do to their credibility from a man who was already predisposed to think they didn't know what they were talking about. Not a mistake. I'm going out there making all sorts of mistakes. Not worried about my credibility at all. Not having any doubt whatsoever. And not caring that if you make a mistake, now they're coming after your eyebrows, your chin. You better have your makeup right, because they're coming after every part of you, because it's a feeding frenzy of angry piranha. Many times men in this business who you can't tell whether they love women or hate women, but don't want them sometimes talking about sports.
We'll get to true equality when a woman in media can mistake Jake Owen for Aaron Rodgers and get away with it, to somehow spin that into a win.
You're right.
Because Stugotz can simply not exist as a woman.
That character?
A character? No, I mean, come on.
Not right now.
A character, but
well,
John Wiener.
He's paving the way.
John Wiener
cannot exist. Right.
John Wiener was the one who mixed up Jake Owen for Aaron Rodgers. We amplified it with Stugotz the character.
Joanna Wiener. Can't make that mistake. But Mike is right. Hopefully one day she'll be able to make that mistake and no one will say a single word about it. They'll laugh.
Why don't you just get better?
I don't want to. Get better. I mean, this is working out well for me.
I don't want to can't be a response.
Women need to be able to do the mistakes, make the mistakes he makes before he gets better.
Right.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Well said, Chris.
Yes.
How happy.
Do we need a woman, Chris?
There can be no. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That will be true equality.
Take this lane.
A female Chris.
Just that we're like, look at this idiot over here talking. Let her talk.
Christina
Cody. Can you imagine her Monday analysis? Mac Jones sucks.
You disagree?
Vic Fangio needs to walk downstairs.
Well, he does.
Next week, if he's downstairs next week, you guys are all going to be taking the L.
I still don't understand how you think that would benefit them.
This guy's never coached Stugotz.
He doesn't get it.
He doesn't know.
Right.
This guy's never been around.
You don't
Never
get
had
it.
his hand in the dirt.
Right.
He doesn't know the
is the
difference.
Duke. He is
There's
the
a
Duke.
big difference between, hey, pick up the phone, Vic wants to yell at you.
Right.
And if I get in your face, I grab that front pad. I know I don't do that anymore.
Has less meaning. Yeah, get in the game, Vic. I mean, that's what we're saying, Billy. Don't call me by phone. Say it to my face.
You laugh now, but when he's down in the field next week, you get me?
So you think it's because they want to get roughed up by their 60-year-old head assistant coach?
We're not saying they do. We're saying he has to. That's
They
what
got to
we're
have
saying.
the fear of it.
Right.
I'm not saying do it. I'm not saying act on it. Just know that he's there. I'm ready to grab your face mask.
They're
if I
not
need
children. You realize these people are 6'8". Vic Fangio's not going to scare them.
to. All the good DCs are on the field. All the good DCs.
Right. You haven't seen the fangs come out, Billy.
Billy, I'm just curious how you experience this as a rising executive at Meadowlark Media. How do you experience as the producer of the award-winning God Bless Football when, as you produce your talent and ask the innocent question, why
That's
don't you get
loosely.
better? Why don't you get better? And his answer is, I don't want to. Like, how does that relationship work?
It's not the best, but
Is what it is.
it is exactly. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, we're here.
We come here, man.
Yeah.
We're here. God
New-
bless football.
new
That's
episode
a ringing,
out today,
That's
yeah.
a ringing slogan
Lucy's
on behalf
We
of
come here, man.
Well,
5 minutes late, but we come here, man.
You were way more than 5 minutes late.
I was 15.
Are the Packers just going to have another quarterback now?
Yep, Jordan Love.
Like,
He's
that's
great.
just it?
Yeah.
They just get 3 great ones back to back to back?
Yep.
We're making him great.
I'm not saying great, but it just seems like he was all right.
Well, the offensive line is very good.
There also might be something to sitting and waiting a couple of years and watching a legend do it, and then you go do it.
Slow burn.
Well, we've changed some of the timeline on all that stuff, right? Because, Stugotz, one of the things that we have not discussed is how the young quarterbacks looked opening weekend.
They were bad.
The young quarterbacks weren't good. Anthony Richardson looks like a specimen, and after the game, Trevor Lawrence said to him, don't do that anymore. The hits up here are different. You need to protect your body. Anthony Richardson looked very good, but it is the most normal thing in the world under every football I've ever watched for the quarterbacks in their first game to not be very good. Very few have been. Cam Newton was in his first game, but the first day is supposed to be really hard. I feel like this timeline, though, has been sped up on these guys so much that, hey, you better not have too many like that, Justin Fields.
Yeah, but it's not just us. The onus isn't on the media or the fans speeding up the timeline. The league rules legislated that. You only have these guys under that cap number for so long. You need to find out quickly.
But what I'm saying about the commerce of that, the business change of that the 49ers are amazing, not just because Brock Purdy is doing it for cheap, but because they can shrug their shoulders about swinging wildly on Trey Lance and missing.
Well, they can't just shrug their shoulders. They give up 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance.
But it doesn't matter, or it has not mattered. They're still great.
But if they didn't luck into Brock Purdy, they'd be in big trouble.
But you say luck in, but I'm guessing that what they did with Garoppolo, I'm guessing that Kyle Shanahan feels like he could do it with anybody if he did it with Brock Purdy because he did it with Brock Purdy.
Except Trey Lance, though.
Okay, and they cut quickly.
That sounds like an indictment on Trey Lance.
That it was to me.
When I look at what they've accomplished, I think Kyle Shanahan's gotten himself to a point that you had a couple seasons there, and if you couldn't flash yet, then this is not the fit for you. And if he's saying you're not the fit, there might be something to that.
We spoke to Chris Sims last week on the Friday God Bless Football, and he was telling us that it felt like he was kind of strong-armed into taking Trey Lance. Like he wasn't 100% sold on him and had to be talked into it, but really wanted Mac Jones. So it's possible that he just never really thought it was a fit, and it just didn't work out.
You couldn't be totally comfortable with Trey Lance. He barely played in college. I remember just when they drafted him, I was like, this is wild. He's played a year in the FCS.
They had the one COVID showcase game for him where they broke protocol for one game to basically just give him a platform to show his skills.
The business of it, Stugotz, where you have to learn quickly whether these guys can play or not, and you have to get value at that position.
It's changed, yeah, because if they're good, you have a team. If your quarterback's good on a rookie contract, you could build around that.
That's correct. Yeah. But what I saw week 1, I don't know how many of you felt what I did, which was a palpable sadness for Fox and their 6th-team broadcast of Chris Myers because he had to go do Falcons-Carolina.
That's where he lives.
He does. Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Batard Show. Does Chris Myers, as a broadcaster, live at the 6th game between the Falcons and Carolina? Because he graduated from my high school. He's one of the most famous alums in the history of my high school. He is one of the great successes in the history of my high school. And I feel sad that he's still lugging out there and limping out to go watch Carolina-Atlanta, a game I had zero interest in, and the quarterback play was really bad in.
Once upon a time, he was on the 2nd team, right, Chris Myers? Oh, the mighty have fallen.
I just was sad.
It's Mike, and at just 96 calories a can, Miller Lite is going to be the only beer you'll want to celebrate football season with all season long. Whether you're at the stadium or playing fantasy football or watching the game at home or at a bar, Miller Lite is here to make your football season taste like Miller time. You know what I like to do? I like to time out the kickoff with the opening of the white can. You get that sound, it's perfect. It's like a chorus from heaven. It is the only light beer with a taste worthy of our national obsession. Because what's the point of having a beer if it doesn't taste like, well, beer? You get the taste you crave without the calories. Make it Miller time all season long. Get Miller Lite delivered right to your door. Visit MillerLite.com/Dan, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces.